We are going to do a reaction video to Jeffrey Epstein with Steve Bannon interview that was leaked. Um, this is leaked by DJ Vlad, and I'm not sure if this one gets struck down or copyrighted, but he has his watermark on it, so we're going to see what we can do with this. This is my second time recording this. I don't know what I was thinking. I literally spent probably almost 2 hours going through this, and I did not record a single thing. So now I'm doing this again. I feel ridiculous. Like I don't even know if I'm going to be able to repeat what I said. So, but in fact, I might have to shorten what I said because I'm not like I have to go through every timestamp here to see what was what. So what I would do, and a lot of it is mostly financial explanations. But let's see. One of the key things I want you to understand. Um, He explained the Illuminati, and I don't remember where it was. But let's go through this, and I'm going to react to it and try to repeat what I said, which I feel ridiculous on this. But let's see. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is definitely inflation. And then he explained something about Bill Clinton, which was interesting. So we're going to get into this. Let's start with, let's see here. Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, in fact, you know what it was? Let's see. Let's go into 4 minutes.
So David would say, Jeffrey, money is going to be sort of the most important things. People don't understand money. You seem to have this knack for money. I said to David, tell me about your life. What was the worst and the best part of your life? So David said, when I grew up, everyone knew I was a Rockefeller. They didn't know that my father told me he would not leave me a dime. No money. But every time we went out to eat, me and my 5 friends at school, they would leave me the bill. They would expect me to pick up the check because I was a Rockefeller. And he said, I was chairman of Chase Bank. And he said, I remember like it was yesterday, one of the headlines in Time magazine said, David, please fire yourself. So he thought that there was a bunch of other people. And David Rockefeller and I got along very well. He was this unbelievable human, except it was old. It was sort of old-fashioned. They were talking about medicine, and medicine by itself was, again, subject to the ideas of science. They were trying to use science to find cures for disease. And I said, no, we need to do something different. We need to start interdisciplinary work. In most...
How did a schmuck like you get on the board of Rockefeller? What year was that?
I don't remember. Late, I think 89 and 91.
So that's one of the most prestigious research places in the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how did a guy like you get on the board of a blue blood, internationally known, hard research, Nobel Prize winners all over the place? How do they pick a guy like you, a trader from, or basically some guy from Bear Stearns?
And see, this shit got me like, how do you call this man a traitor? Like, you just called him out. You literally just called him out. Like, that's fucked up. And, you know, what's interesting is a lot of people think he's white, but then they say he's got ties to Israel. He has an accent. He's American, but he has an accent. Let's dig up where he's from. Let's see. He was an American financier, of course, says child sex offender, serial rapist, and human trafficker. Began his professional career as a teacher. He was hired without a degree by Donald Barr at the Dalton School. After his dismissal from the school, in 1976, he entered the banking and finance sector working at Bear Stearns. It's interesting. Let's see where his parents are from. Jeffrey Epstein was born In January 20th, 1953, in Brooklyn, a borough of New York City, his parents were Pauline Stolovsky and Seymour George Epstein. They were Jewish and had married in 1952, shortly before his birth. Pauline worked as a school aide and was a homemaker. Seymour worked in the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation as a groundskeeper and gardener. So his family was Jewish. So, what everybody talking about, he had ties to Israel. Like, do you blame him? His parents are from Israel. Like, what do you expect? He's not like 100% white, as they would say. So that explains his accent. I expect him to sound white, but he's got an accent. It's not a New York accent either. So, there you have it. If you want to keep saying, he shouldn't have been doing business with Israel. Well, his parents probably had dual citizenship too. And I'm pretty sure that's why he constantly, had ties to Israel. That's right. All right. Oh, let's look at it. Mystery people who run the world.
Called the Trilateral Commission.
Let's go back some.
And he said, I was chairman of Chase Bank. And he said, I remember like it was yesterday, one of the headlines in Time magazine said, David, please fire yourself. So he thought that there was a world that existed that would be a combination of both politics and business and leadership. What do I mean? He formed something called the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission is some spooky stuff. People said it was something, the Illuminati, there's some mystery about it, people that ran the world. It was politicians, but David said most countries, the politicians get elected for 4 years or 8 years, separate from the royal families in England or in the Middle East. Someone's there for 4 years and then they're not there anymore. The most important people to have stability and consistency would be businessmen. So he formed this Trilateral Commission of businessmen and politicians from 3 major continents. So it was the North Americans, the Europeans, and the Asians. So he said to me.
So now you have the explanation of the Illuminati. It was businesses and politicians. And the Rockefeller, it would make sense the Rockefellers would know about that because the Rockefellers came from Europe. A lot of secret organizations were from Europe. And he just also explained the trilateral connection. So if you look at the triangle, which is the pyramid and the Illuminati symbol, and he just explained, you had the Americans, the Asians, and the Europeans. What do you think is on top? What do you think is the all seeing eye? Especially today. I want you to think about that. And this is why a lot of musicians and film actors and actresses were skeptical in talking about this because they also were ran by businesses and financial people. And if they spoke against their financiers or the financial industry that actually funded their films or funded how their scripts looked or sounded or how it was written, they wouldn't have a movie. And that's why they were like, oh, the Illuminati controls this, that, and that. It wasn't the Illuminati, it was the financial people. So there you have it. All that conspiracy about the Illuminati, he just fully explained it. So let's see. Well, let's see what else. We got, he doesn't understand inflation. This sounds like Steve Bannon was crashing out. Like he doesn't understand what's going on. Let's see what's going on.
Big issues of the day that they were talking about, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, in fact, it was funny because they were talking about inflation, and they were worried that what would happen, how do you control inflation? And I As a mathematician, I didn't understand the concept. I don't understand the concept today. How's that?
And that makes perfect sense because, number one, no one really tells people what inflation really is. They don't want to explain it because the people behind it are the people who actually raise the prices. They're the ones who cause inflation. They inflate the price. And so that's why people don't quite understand it. But, the government takes the responsibility for that because I guarantee you they're getting donations from the people who are actually raising the prices.
Is that possible? Well, when you talk about most things to do with money, money is meant to be local. It's US dollars. Then I understand what it means. If inflation, it means my dollar today inflates and it doesn't buy as much as it did a couple of years ago. The prices go up. It seems that everything is great, but in fact my dollar is shrinking in value.
And that's kind of what I just said. And again, who's behind that? The businesses that raise the prices, the businesses that make the products, that put a price tag on it. And it's been only two presidents that actually cracked down on it, Nixon and Obama. Nixon was the first, which, he really cracked down on that. And soon after that, he was impeached. And I talked to a lot of people from that era because I don't know nothing about Nixon and I don't choose to research on him. But an economist that I was watching brought that up. And it made sense that that period where he tackled inflation, besides some other problems he may have caused or solved, soon after that, he ran into the Watergate impeachment situation. And it's like they wanted him out of there. So he must have pissed off a lot of business people. Just like Obama pissed off a lot of business people when he did something similar. It sure as hell pissed off Trump. Because look what, Trump rolled back all the things he did to stop inflation and price gouging. So now you have to understand, well, who is responsible for inflation? People keep saying, oh, the government. No, it's not the government. The government is in charge of our taxes. The businesses donate money to the government. That's why it's called, government donors. All right, let's see what else. In jail during the financial crisis. Let's see. Let's jump around. In fact, there was something interesting in this. Um, let's see. Let's go look at. Really, is it popular? I don't understand inflation, hyperinflation, indoctrination, Bannon stun, artificial intelligence analogy. This is going to be amazing. In jail, the mess you made of your life. All right, let's see what he's talking about, the financial crisis.
Let's go back and do that again. Sunday afternoon, because I want to find out about people, the geniuses understanding the complexity of the financial system. Because I think the best example we have is the financial crisis, the crash of 2008. Sunday afternoon, September 14th, I think it was, 2008, is when they were working feverishly in Midtown Manhattan at the Lehman Brothers offices and at various law firms around town, and with the Secretary of Treasury and the Federal Reserve, what they're going to do with Lehman. They decided they weren't going to save it. And so they prepared to put it into bankruptcy at the opening of the market in London.
And that's something people need to get. Obama really wasn't all for saving all the banks. But again, because banks and businesses fund the government, he had to make a hard choice who to save, who not to save. And I'm pretty sure, I understand American people are now looking back. Oh shit, now the banks are fucking us. Well, you got to understand, number one, the government is funded by these people. Number two, if we didn't have no banks, you would have had no money. The banks would have took all of our money. Like I've lost one 401k because of that. the job went bankrupt and they took out 401k. So he had to bail the banks out. Otherwise, the American people would have had no money in their bank accounts. The banks would have took all their money. It would have been fucked. And we'd have had the era of the purge. People would have been robbing and stealing, killing each other. Straight out the gate.
London the next day. How did you hear about what was going to happen to Lehman Brothers, and what did you immediately think when you heard they was going to be put into bankruptcy?
I'm glad you asked that question. I was in solitary confinement September 14th. And again, some of the public stories about
Skip to this. Let's see what it has to say about this
you
one.
tell us, like, what's going on? Am I going to be able to afford my children's education? Am I going to be bankrupt like this company called Lehman Brothers? And there's another company in the front page today called Bear Stearns.
Whoa,
Oh, no.
check that out. Yo. Let's go back. I want y'all to observe something.
Am I going to be able to afford my children's education? Am I going to be bankrupt like this company called Lehman Brothers? And there's another company in the front page today called Bear Stearns.
You see how he just grabbed his neck? Now, yes, there's a conspiracy with, oh, he did not commit suicide. Someone killed him. And some say he committed suicide. And of course, if you look at this WikiLeaks or Wikipedia, they call them WikiLeaks, it says suicide by hanging. Now, you gotta understand something. Why would he gesture like that? When people are in the financial business and they're very sensitive about their money, they always seem to crash out when they start losing their money. And sometimes they will do things that are self-mutilating. They'll practice it until they actually do it. I've never seen anybody grab their necks like they're choking themselves out. Unless, somebody running up on you and talking about, yeah, I got you, and they enact that, I'm going to choke you out. I guarantee you, he used to practice that whenever he had a falling out with his money or whatever. So when it came down to whatever he was pressured and pushed against the wall with when he was arrested, he might have went ahead and contemplated, I got to get choked out, I got to end my life. And the only way you can kill somebody in jail, again, so your inmate has to kill you, or you have to find some type of tool to kill yourself. And it's not hard to hang yourself. All you do is rip some sheets, hide like a plastic fork or whatever, plastic knife. You start ripping the sheet until you make like a little, piece of rope. And you can have somebody hang you or choke you out. That's what you just need somebody to do it for you. And it has to be an inmate. It can't be a guard because the guard will lose their job. Now, they did say whoever was manning the cameras, like they lost their job, blah, blah, but it doesn't even matter. The inmates will have to be the ones to do it. Otherwise, he'll have to do it himself. He'll have to find a way to do it, like, tie himself to like a sink or some pipe, whatever, and just, pull, or lean a certain way until you choke yourself out. So I just want everybody to pay attention to that. He probably already had a subconscious aspect to commit suicide by choking himself out. It's very interesting.
Oh, no, I said. Why? Because that's the company I was a partner in. And in fact, that was a company I had a very large investment in. So, there's a great story.
All right, let's kind of move through this. Let's see, Ben. There was, in fact, when I was watching this earlier, there was a section about Bill Clinton. I'm trying to remember what. Trying to remember what it was.
Same day. So it's not really the fear of inflation. The fear is a run on the bank. Everybody wants to take out something that doesn't really exist. Inflation is tied to interest rates. It's a more complicated example. But when your money doesn't buy the same amount of product this year than it did last year, if it buys less and less, like it happened, you used the term hyperinflation. There's certain countries that are not managed well, like in Africa at the current, a $100 billion bill, $100 billion bill in Zimbabwe is worth 1 American cent. That's the perfect example of hyperinflation.
That's
it goes
insane. That's wild. And another thing people don't pay attention is the digital currency is hyperinflated. It's hyperinflated against the dollar. Any number to the right of a decimal point is a negative value. Any number to the left of the decimal point is gaining value. As soon as you start investing in digital currency, you are like 30 zeros to the right of that decimal point. It is very little value. And people are not catching on to that. And you have to convert digital currency to the dollar. And it's not worth a lot at all. It's insane. So, it's good that he explains that, because people need to catch on to why we was forced into digital currency, because it doesn't have value at all. And then 2, you can monitor digital currency. And 3, it forces you, or forces the person to put more money into that currency than they should. That's all. And it's not real. It's actually fake. It's not real at all. So when the servers crash, guess what? You got nothing but somebody who has all your invested money to back against the digital currency is rich. Let's see. Let's move on. I think this is it. Let's see.
When did you get a feeling? Did you ever anticipate before it happened something like 2008 could happen?
No.
How could that be?
Because it's the word I can beat it to death. Is that it's very much like would I anticipate I'll have a heart attack tomorrow? Unlikely.
Was 2008 a heart attack or a stroke? Debilitating.
It's a better. I don't. It was both. But why was it both? Because, in fact, as I said, the blood was getting dried up in the system, and the head, which is sort of the central bank, wasn't working.
See?
So, to some extent, it was a combination. It was a crisis.
Did you see that building up over time?
It's always been lurking in the background. I mean, if you have an older parent, would you say it's possible? Did you anticipate him having a heart attack today? No, you hope things are going to go better and maybe they'll fix it up. The system was getting too complex, and it wasn't based on derivatives, because what people keep forgetting, and as I was just explaining, Wall Street and in many professions, including Wall Street makes it sound complicated. They don't want the little guy to understand what they...
I can't understand Wall Street. And I had to figure out what is the point of stocks and bonds. And I still don't quite get it. But from what I gathered, the stocks and the bonds is another bank to put their profits in, to save their profits. And then they get you to add to those profits to raise the value of the stocks and bonds. And then when their investment on something is losing money, they start taking that money that you put in, that they've had sitting there, and they sell it, or they take it out and move it to somebody else's little piggy bank to hold. That's how a lot of people who invest in stocks tend to lose money before the company. And you got to pay attention to that. Really, you got to really pay attention to that. Um, and I can't find where he mentioned the Clintons. There was actually there's a reason why Trump mentioned the Clintons, and I'm gonna go back here. Let's see. I think it was right around this area here.
And I looked at the list of people, and it was Bill Clinton, former president of the United States.
See, there it is right there. So he's gonna explain something. It's very interesting.
They didn't know that my father told me he would not leave me a dime. No money. But every time we went out to eat, me and my 5 friends at school, they would leave me the bill. They would expect me to pick up the check because I was at Rockefeller. And he said, I was chairman of Chase Bank. And he said, I remember like it was yesterday, one of the headlines in Time.
Skip ahead a bit.
North Americans, the Europeans, and the Asians. So he said to me, would you like to be on the Trilateral Commission? Now, I was 30 years old, 32 years old. I said, great. And he said, well, you have to fill out this application so they have your bio. And I looked at the list of people, and it was Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, Paul Volcker, every great leader in America, the Asians, the Japanese, and with a very long description of their history. And they asked me to fill in what I would like to.
So that's why Trump threw the Clintons' name out. And it's kind of why he wanted the Democrats' name to be thrown out there to distract you from what he was doing with Epstein, because the Clintons with Jeffrey Epstein joined the Trilateral Committee in the financial world after he was president. And I'm pretty sure the Bidens or Hunter Biden joined, you know, and it's a shame Trump keep deflecting away from his business ventures, because I'm pretty sure he had his hands in it too, you know. But that's why the Clintons are now on trial. In fact, if you look at the date, this was probably found or released, and DJ Vlad is now putting out there. The Clintons are currently on trial right now. So if you take what he just said and you see why the Clintons on trial, why they're so willing to be on trial, it's because they weren't necessarily probably at his island to do all this sexual activity, but they were at his island to deal with the business venture that he was also part of. Now, well, I'm not going to even watch the trial. I don't really care. But I'm pretty sure that's what's going to come out. But now you know why Trump is trying to say, oh, well, the Clintons were there, but Epstein just explained why the Clintons were there. You know, it's just kind of screwed up. This man is speaking a lot of truth, and I'm pretty sure Steve Bannon is kind of releasing this to show like, well, Epstein wasn't that bad of a guy, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't, you know, necessarily into sex trafficking, yada, yada, yada. I think it's another cope to cover it up, which, you know, let's see, that this was filmed as part of an unreleased documentary per Bannon, or media coaching PR rehabilitation effort per Bannon. See, detractors to help Epstein counter negative publicity following the neural scrutiny of the. See what I'm saying? It's a fucking cult. And I'm pretty sure Steve Bannon was in on it too. You know, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that's. Let's see. And I can't remember. Let's see if it was here.
Banking. And fractionalized banking is something that finance people understand, And the people on the street, and when I say people on the street, that's where I was when I started on Wall Street, would find it impossible to believe. Impossible. Why? Bannon Bank, I give you $1, just one single dollar. In our system of banking, I would say, okay, Steve, I gave you $1. How much could you lend out to your friends? And your natural reaction would be probably something less than $1 because I want to keep something in my pocket. The way our system works is if you as a bank are holding my dollar, you can lend out an additional $8 or $9. No, it's impossible.
Oh,
I
here it
only
is.
have $1, Jeff.
Okay.
They decided to bail it out. Did the Bear Stearns guys talk to you for advice at that time when the big crisis in Bear Stearns?
No, but see, again, unbeknownst to most people, and it's easy to blame people for the financial crisis, like you'd blame someone for giving your father the drink before he had his heart attack.
Or Trump constantly blaming Obama. Constantly. Like, that shit is so tired and dead. Like, he needs to cut that shit out. Like, we all know George W. Bush Jr. drew us in a 4-year war that bankrupted the country. We all know that. It's just, like I said earlier, Obama had to put in place laws to slow down inflation, slow down the price gouging, and stop the wasteful spending businesses were using from the bailout money. And Obama got accused of spying on American people for doing that. And it pissed off Trump because Trump was a business person.
But what really happened, the real enemy of the finance system was Bill Clinton.
See,
And if you ask me what and who...
I did not know that. That throws me for a loop because I had no idea. I thought it was really George W. Bush, and then Clinton had to pull us out of a financial debt from that war because I was young. I think we was at war for like 2 years. It might have been 3 years. And then that had us in debt. Bill Clinton had to pull us out of debt. And then George W. Bush's son put us back into a 4-year war, which bankrupted the country. That's why I'm kind of thrown for a loop right now. And it makes no sense, but let's keep it going.
caused the financial crisis, I would tell you it was Bill Clinton.
Because of what Bob Rubin and he did to deregulate the financial system?
No. Because as of the last time we had our 60-minute interview, you talked to me about home ownership. And you asked me whether everyone should own a home. And I told you no, it's too risky.
So the financial collapse of 2008 is because of hardworking African Americans, Hispanics, and whites who...
I want everybody to understand something. He said Hispanics, hardworking Hispanics. How do you get hardworking Hispanics to Hispanics and immigrants coming to America and taking all the jobs and using up all the state-funded and federal-funded resources? And that just came out of Steve Bannon's mouth. I mean, make it make sense. That's why I don't walk the beat of narratives. I'm not a sheep. If I hear something, throw it off. I'm gonna research it, or I'm gonna go talk to people about it, see what they say. Because usually, the people out there will have more experience on what's going on than what the narrative is being spread around is being spread. It's just that's. And I've been around Latin people and Hispanic people, which they don't like to be called Hispanic, but I've been around Latin people. They are not out over here trying to steal people's jobs and use and buck the system. Like, come on, half of them don't even speak English. Like, fuck out of here.
wanted to have a ownership stake in the society that all rests on their shoulders. They're the culprits.
No, not at all.
Okay, then
I didn't say they were the culprits. I was pretty clear it was Bill Clinton.
Okay.
And why was it Bill Clinton? because Bill Clinton wanted to get votes from those people. And he sold them the idea that instead of renting in a house, and historically the values of houses have gone up, and he said, you guys in these local communities who haven't been able to afford a house before, I'm going to show you a way. I'm going to give you a way, because I'm sure I'll get your vote, that you can own a house, because I want your vote. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let you buy a house, Mr. Bannon, when you really, you're right on the border, maybe, or not even on the border. Your credit is not good. Okay, let's be honest. And it's not my fault, it's not Bill Clinton's fault, but if whatever happens, at the moment your credit score or whatever it is, your credit's not good. Now, normally, you come to me and want to borrow money, I'm a bank, and I say, I'm sorry, Mr. Bannon, I can't lend you money because your credit score is not up to where it needs to be. Hopefully, if you work harder and clean up some of your problems, it will be. But no, what I say to you is, I'm going to figure out a way to lend you, not give you. I'm going to lend you money anyway, though you don't have a good credit score. And don't worry, I'm going to get rid of the term that you don't have bad credit. Bad credit sounds pejorative. You don't want to be a person.
Sounds judgmental.
Yeah, it sounds judgmental. So
That explains how when everybody were able to buy a house in the low and middle class, and we had the financial crisis from the financial industry, it affected the housing industry. So when the banks ran out of money, probably loaning money to all these businesses that funded the war, and they didn't get no return back from the oil, the banks went bankrupt, and then there was no money for the people to pay for their bills. Jobs started laying off, because again, jobs that you work for are also donors, and they got to take out loans for this, that, and third. They start laying off to maximize their profits. Well, guess what? Now people are getting foreclosed in their houses because job layoffs, people can't go to the bank, yada, yada, yada. So those two coincided with each other. And he's just explaining, because of the financial bank crisis, it doubled the amount of people over the 4 years of having Bill Clinton allow people to buy houses, and then people under Bush were buying houses. A lot of people couldn't afford a house, and then people couldn't even afford to buy a house because there were no loans. So it crashed the market on both ends. And the sad thing is, now, today, we have the same financial loop. We're right back kind of where we started with all this buy now, pay later for those who can't afford it. So we got more loans being handed out, and they are talking about a financial collapse real soon. We don't know how soon, but soon. It's coming. It's the same thing. So yeah, that took me for a loop. I never even realized what Clinton did could have affected the economy like that 8 years later. Now, I can't say that's his fault, but that's his perspective. And I wanted to get to that because that was very interesting. And yet you have Trump telling me, well, it's all Obama's fault. It's all Obama this, that. Like, bro, shut the fuck up. That shit is so dead ass. Like, we're tired of hearing it. Like, we all know, if you're smart and do your history, Trump is mad at Obama because Obama put a foothold on what businesses do to cause inflation. And that's why this economy is so out of whack right now, because Trump keep doing financial decisions that's allowing the rich businesses and CEOs to get money, but is taking money from the pockets of the American people. He wants business people to be more successful than American people, but he's telling us a lie. Like, it's all coming back into a system. Like, what has he done so far? He has done nothing for the American people. He's putting himself on the map by building his own little White House world. He wants statues built. He's trying to build an arch. He wants a bigger military for God knows what kind of attack. We haven't gotten attacked since 9/11, and now it's just airplanes. Like, what the fuck you need a Golden Dome for? People gonna be using drones if they ever attack us. Missiles not gonna be able to shoot that shit down like that. They always brag about, oh well, the American military shot down a drone, like one drone, versus what Israel's been attacked with. You make it make sense. Their Iron Dome over there failed multiple times. Failed against a drone attack. So we're becoming sheep led to the narrative slaughter right now. And it's kind of pathetic. So I wanted to get to that because that was very, very interesting. A lot of this is financial, unfortunately, but you do get to find out what the Illuminati really is. It's business people mixed with politicians. You found out the essence of inflation and who causes it. It's the people you work for. You found out why the financial collapse happened. And, you found out that Bill Clinton was part of the economic commerce triad. So, and Epstein was a part of it, and that's why he was tied to Epstein, but Trump wants to make you think otherwise. So now you know why the Clintons on trial, but Trump's trying to make it like a distraction, like something gonna come out of it, But anyway, let's move along here. There was something else that's very interesting out of this that everybody needs to hear. I gotta find it. It's further down. A lot of this, again, like it's about mathematics and whatnot. In fact, there's something very interesting about calculus that he said. Let's see here. This is like about 2 hours long. All right. Let's see right here.
Important, Steve, for today. Because most of the science up until today was things that are starting to approach the limit. You were taught in high school that if you had 1 divided by 0, if you remember your high school algebra, you were told, what's the answer to that? Is there an answer to 1 divided by 0? No, if you were in high school, it's like, stay away from it. It's the boogeyman. You could write it down as it's undefined. It's not able to be determined.
All it was is tell you is 0. The same thing with 1 times 0, 0. It's undefined. And that was the issue I had with math. It just got ridiculous. And as you get into algebra, it starts to make less and less sense because then you have teachers coming up with stupid ass equations that make no sense, and you have this wild ass answer that doesn't have any commonality to anything.
There's a bunch of things, but in fact, 1 divided by 0 is a strange things happen. It's a world of the strange. And what I'll explain to you after is that when you get 1 divided by 0, you get into a world we don't know what happens. The answer is it's not explainable. We can call it things like undetermined. We can have a convention to say it's X, Y, or Z, but in real life, we don't know what happens when you are actually at the limit. So that's Newton thought the same concept is that the limits were God. You got close to God, but you can never be God. It had this sort of religious interpretation.
Okay, I want to go back to Newton.
And that's interesting because in our state, in fact, we will never get close to God in our state. There's a culture that was a part of Rome that actually removed a section out of the book of Genesis that explained what the term God made us in our own image meant. And it's sad because if you ever get on YouTube, look up the books, the book of Adam and Eve and the book of Jubilees. You're going to find the conversation between Adam and Eve very striking. What Eve says explains what we looked like before they sinned. And it's very identical to what Moses witnessed in Mount Sinai, but God was much brighter. He's, besides Enoch and Elijah, those three were the only three human beings that got very close to God. Now, and I don't want to spoil it, I want you guys to look it up. When you find out what Adam and Eve was talking about to each other about their appearance before they was kicked out the garden, you're going to find out why our mythology about, people with superpowers, glowing abilities, and all this, where that came from. You're going to eventually see where it came from. It's not made up at all. In fact, a lot of our mythology is not made up. A lot of our mythology is from what happened before the flood, and some of it happened after the flood. It's just when the stories was told, they were manipulated during the Greek and Roman times. And you'll notice, and you look this up, the similarities of Greek mythology is the exact same things that's mentioned in the book of Genesis and the book of Enoch. Exact same things. So that's a little context. Again, you have to do a lot of research and a lot of digging. A lot of this stuff was hidden before the internet. When you had libraries, you could only research what was put into a book, and the rest of the books were hidden. I do know at some point in the mid 2000s, the Catholic Church was forced to open a vault of all the stuff that they hid and kept from society. So a lot of things about the Catholic Church has been exposed over the decades, including the bloodshed, the pedophilia, and all that kind of nonsense.
Why is Newton such a big dividing line in mankind's history? What is it about Newton? What is it about what he's trying to solve? What did they not know beforehand? And because we live to a degree in a Newtonian universe, although I realized later subparticle atomic physics, but at least for a while it was Newtonian. So
Steve Bannon is a dumbass. Like, he's an idiot. He is an idiot. Like, I don't even know how he got to the role he is. Like, you want to say black people dumb. He surpasses ignorance. Like, it's fucking phenomenal.
what's the dividing line? Why is he so important? Why is he an inflection point in mankind's movement from the swamp to the stars?
It's a great question. Because stars was by Kepler. What Newton starts to allow us to do is to make accurate predictions. Remember that we've talked about that with money, about the things.
Which is the basis of science. And that's why science is so chaotic. And a lot of it's unproven, and some of it they had to double down and go backwards and say, oh shit, now we know why we can't prove this. This is never going to work because yada, yada, yada. Some scientists are actually going back to the Bible for historical reasoning behind what they can't solve. They actually are going back to the Bible.
Things in our physical world, how cars, but he didn't have cars then, how horse carriages moved, how bowling balls moved, how pool cues and pool, excuse me, pool table balls.
Had people tried to solve that before Newton? Had
many,
tried it? Heraclitus or Plotinus, Pythagoras had these greats that we hear about, had they tried to solve the same problem?
Not the same problem. They try to, again, what Pythagoras does, he starts to figure out this relationships in triangles. For example, everyone knows the a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, that Pythagorean theorem, which is basically says these.
And that's the problem I have with calculus and algebra. You just already said you go from numerical equations to alphabetical equations. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Intellectually, that makes zero sense. All you just did was say A, B, C. You know what I mean? So anybody who doesn't know algebra that well, calculus, what you're doing is you're filling in the number where the alphabet is. That's all you're doing. You're just making it more complicated, but it's more like you're taking an algebraic equation and say, okay, I'm going to say a theory. Now let's plug in the facts into that theory. So you're taking one fact, plugging it into the first theory. You're taking the next fact, plugging it into the second theory, and you're going to come out with the outcome of the theory. And that's why I use alphabetized lettering in algebra and calculus. It confuses people, but that's why they use alphabets.
Shapes in a triangle, each side of the triangle has a fixed relationship with the other two sides. That's strange. He knew, again, but it was all numbers. This was a system of things in the physical.
And keep in mind, which most European philosophers really don't want to admit, most of the northern African people had already figured this stuff out. It's all over the walls in Egypt, and they had already, in fact, God taught Noah how to build a boat mathematically. And just to even put in more context, they kind of knew how to build stuff, because if you look up the 200 fallen, there was a fallen angel that taught mathematics, there was a fallen angel that taught science, one that taught astrology, one that taught cosmetics and beautification, one that taught war and all this stuff. And you can look it up. I think most of them are mentioned in the book of Enoch. But that's where we learned all this, the fallen angels. God taught us specific things to get certain things done. But they already knew. The problem is God needed Noah to build a very large boat to carry every species of animal in a very short timely manner. So he had to tell him exactly how to build it and what measurements. Noah was very smart. He knew how to do it. He just had to be told the measurements of the boat and how to build it with tar. Now, they probably didn't know how to mess with tar back then, so God taught him how to use or create, or how to make tar. That's about maybe the only thing he needed to learn, how to make tar to seal the cracks in the wood. But I'm pretty sure they knew how to make measurements, because they had to make weapons. You had to make a length of a spear or whatever. They knew astronomy and astrology. So that it's why it's chaos, because the fallen angels following Lucifer was chaos. They were chaotic. Lucifer rends chaos from order, and it was his whole purpose to rebel against his father, who prefers order. All right, so we're gonna move along here. Let's see, minute 25. This one was interesting. Science and math is old-fashioned.
I think science and math are old-fashioned. And unfortunately, people are still taught that they have to learn algebra in school and certain things in school, as opposed to learning to have an emotion.
Is this what Larry Summers was trying to get at? Maybe.
So there you have it. Now you know why school's a waste of fucking time. There you have it. Jeffrey Epstein just called it out. Our system is a fucking waste of time, and it hasn't evolved. It's the same repetitive bullshit. And the sad thing is, you go through 12, no, actually, I would say 8 years of school, learning the same repetitive, old-fashioned, out-of-date shit, and you're gonna only use maybe 3% of what you use, depending on your career. That's it. And then you have to go to college to relearn this shit, plus the entry-level career you're picking as a major. So you just wasted your entire life. And yet, you're technically an adult between the ages of 12 and 15. You're learning to live as an adult from 15 to 18. You should be out in the world between 18 to 21. If you're not already out in the world between 15 and 18, you should be between 18 and 21. Cultures tend to start their kids to be adults by the time they're 8 years old, maybe 5 at best. They're already learning to be an adult between 5 and 8 in other cultures. And yet, we're in a country that treats you like kids till you're 21, teaching you out of date shit till you're 21 and tell you go get a job. You got all this wasted knowledge you're not going to even use. You heard it from Epstein. And it makes sense why kids are dropping out of school. It makes sense why they did back then. It makes sense why now, not to mention it's expensive for no reason. You can't get a job like you used to. It makes zero sense. 0 cents. So yeah, he dropped the hammer on that one.
He didn't say it perfectly enough, but what he was trying to get to in that system, the systems we study today, the way mathematics is either taught or understood, that women just haven't gotten up to the highest realms of engineering or physics or mathematics because of that. And you're actually implying that there's a either new branch of science, or we've hit an inflection point like in Newton that's going to go in a Newton took mankind in a different direction because he was able.
Oh my God, man! Like you've got to be kidding me right now. Got to be fucking kidding me. Let's see here. Let's scoot this up some.
To get our hands around, but that's what's evolving out of this?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I think that mathematics, it's not the end of science. Every year someone says it's the end of, we can't discover everything. There's lots to discover with relationship to the physical world, but we know a lot already. In respect to the unexplainable world, we almost know nothing. Women, again, sense it. And instead of Larry Summers, I won't digress too much, but Howard Gardner early on said, there's not one form of intelligence. It's not mathematical intelligence. There's emotional intelligence, this kinesthetic intelligence. You know, there's this argument that I reject that black people are less intelligent than white people. It's not true.
There you have it, Nick Fuentes. You heard it from the guy you call cool. Because Nick Fuentes wants to say black people are less intelligent than white people. And I'm going to get into that later, but women who have this kinesis sensory ability, I mean, it's true because they're one, emotional, and two, they have to have an internal sensory because they have to carry another being inside their body. So they have to be able to sense internally from the inside out. And their senses are heightened when they're pregnant. And so they can sense their environment a lot better than a man when they're pregnant. Now, not to say men can't, all right? Men think analytically, but when a man doesn't think analytically, they can start sensing too. And one of the things I learned in the military is they take away the analytical aspect of a man and they make you use your senses as a term. You better know your environment. You better study your environment. Pay attention to your environment. Yeah, because women usually pay attention to the environment first, so they can read body language before a man would read someone's body language. That's why when women, come into your space, they're like, "Honey, are you okay? Or what's wrong? You look sad. You look down." They can sense that. They can tell. Now, women today, I don't know. I think they don't even bother to read people's body language anymore. It depends, but that's what he means, and it's another reason why you have a lot of women into the zodiacs, the genealogy, the astrology, all this, and the witch culture was a big thing because witches were good with the sensory and the astrology, sensing people's pain and anguish. They were good nurses too. So that explains what he means, and it's part of the emotional aspect of a woman and the empathy aspect of a woman.
We know, for example, that if I was in the forest and I had to run from the lion or figure out a way not to be eaten, and my competition is a local African, I'm the one who's getting eaten because they have the intelligence to deal with their local environment. So it's just different.
So yeah, he just dropped the hammer on that one. And it makes sense because every culture around the world has a specific intelligent expertise in what they do and in their environment. It's just when the Europeans started spreading out, they called other cultures' expertise savage in the name of God. And so they've gradually lost that expertise on survival. We as a world nation, we're losing the expertise in surviving. But what's also funny is what the Europeans call savage, you're kind of reverting back to what we call camping. It's the same shit. If they had a simple life and you're calling your life in this different environment that's got or requires a lot of intelligence to maintain it more than someone in a simple life, and yet you got to take a break to go enjoy the same simple life as the people who are living in what you call a savage tribal life. How are they more intelligent than you then? You know what I mean? Like, make it make sense. Now, as far as the black culture, not being as smart as the white culture, as Nick Fuentes wants to eloquently put it, I'm glad this came up. Now, again, he's not exactly white, but the black culture, they are very smart like me. I've achieved to move forward. I achieved to learn more intelligent things that's beyond the beyond. Most black people want to do the most simplest things, and it just keeps them held back, or it keeps them in a bubble, and it makes it worse when they glorify criminal activity and they amplify their aggression with attitude and other stuff. And so when you don't want to progress and you have a culture that's progressing and we have this knack to put each other down, you're going to get profiled. And then I've seen this because I've talked to a lot of black guys and people out in the workforce, and they looking at me like, oh no, you doing it, you're awesome, you smart. I'm no smarter than you. Oh no, no, no. But I said, well, you can do the same thing. You can get into the electrical field or programming. No, no, that's for smart people. I'm like, the fuck? And of course, you already know what they mean. They're gonna say, oh, that's for white people. Especially like me being a nerd. I used to be told, oh, that's a white person's thing, being a nerd. I don't give a fuck. You call me whitewash or you want to Kuma. I don't give a shit. My dad, being light skinned, put us in the white community. And what I noticed was white cultural white cultural people want to progress in a certain sense. And that's how they manage mostly finances and progression. That's their biggest thing. They want to progress. And so like with me, when I was intuitive to learn what they wanted to learn, they helped me progress. They saw opportunity. Oh, well, he wants to learn. Oh, cool. I'll teach you what I know. You can progress. And if you're successful, congratulations. But when you want to do the most simplest thing, don't want to learn nothing new, backed by this attitude and this criminal bullshit, you're going to look like you have a low IQ. And all the cop out and the quick quitting, which is nothing wrong with quitting if you can't do it, find something else to do. Some people just quitting, just go backwards. But the criminal activity that's so inflammatorily advertised as, oh, this is cool, this is the streets, like you're looking savage and you already know negativity sells. And that's why the black community has gone forward, and then all of a sudden, I don't know where the fuck it happened. Somewhere after 2020, y'all just took a fucking U-turn and went backwards. And it's just like, it's sad. And so now they're saying black people have a low IQ because all you see is crime, stealing, anger, and yelling. I can't stand that shit. I can't. Like, I don't fuck with that shit. So, you know, call me a coon, whitewash. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what you say in my comment section, but that's reality. There's a lot of smart people out there that's black, brown, and I say I'm brown. I don't give a fuck because I am brown. I've been around dark people and they look black. I've seen Africans who are so black they have a blue shade. In fact, you look at the Sudanese or the people in northern Africa, they're dark, dark. But that's not because whoever wants to say, oh, that's because they're in the heat and in the sun. Nah. If you actually read the fucking Bible, you'll find out one of Noah's sons came out that fucking dark. It's just when they start mixing, which is on the walls of Egypt, you'll see their shade got lighter. And then when you had, which you can look this up, when you had that leprosy problem, which destroys your skin, they got even lighter. In fact, there's a prophet that was cursed with leprosy along with his entire generation. Like, so anybody from that prophet who was cursed with leprosy, who had a baby, was born with destroyed skin. That's where the white culture comes from. Does that make it, well, oh, he was smart? No, he was not smart. In fact, if you look what he did, he was a grifter. He was more or less a colonialist. You know, it's just people decided to stick with what they were tribal and comfortable with. Somewhere down the line, with all the conquering, it just kept spreading, which Greeks and Romans started spreading as conquerors, and it just continued after the Roman Empire. You know, so it's just you got to get your shit together. And there's savage South Americans. They call them cartels. You got the Middle Easterns who do some more notorious violent things. They call them terrorists. It doesn't fucking matter. It's just, you can't just say, oh, because he's violent, he has a low IQ. But it's what you do that makes people get a first impression about you also. That's why, like, black people call low IQ monkeys. The Middle Easterns are called terrorists. The South Americans are called immigrants and cartel crime law. It's fucking insane. But he just said, no one has no better intelligence than the other. Every particular intelligence, if it's put together as collective, can get you advanced through a problem. And with the world being what it is, if we actually work together with individual, unique intelligence, we can actually build better and faster. That's what Elon does. He takes his idea, he finds people who has the same intelligence in that particular area of his idea, and he makes them work for him, puts them to work. He's not that very fucking smart. He's just got all these ideas, and he's got people who have similar ideas who can make his ideas come to fruition. It's one of the reasons why America tricked all the Asians and Indians to come here to go to college, and they put them to work, and then they had them build what they should be building in their own country. Now, fucking China figured it out. Japan realized what was going on. India's just now realizing. So they wait, hold up. So their students are coming here learning, they're going back and building their stuff over there because they realize, oh man, we got tricked and lied to. And just recently, Trump talking about, or his people talking about kidnapping Chinese engineers to beat out China. Like, fucking really? And then he wants to say most Americans are noise. Sorry about that. But, Trump is saying most Americans are too dumb to even do anything that the Chinese and Indians can do, which that's fucked up. So all you white people who think African Americans are ignorant, you got a white man in office telling y'all are just as ignorant and dumb as we are. It came out of his mouth. Look it up. And you got Nick Fuentes talking about, well, Africans and immigrants are dumber than white people. Like, y'all need to get y'all story straight. But this is straight from Epstein's mouth. And, unfortunately, a lot of this is about the financial world he was in, mathematics, because he was a mathematician, and, issues in the economy. But yeah, he doesn't go into anything about trafficking, unfortunately, because I kind of got as far as an hour and 50 minutes. But yeah, this whole interview was just a cope to kind of give him a cover and a face before he was arrested for sexual allegations. But I think Bannon, when he got in his situation with Trump, and it was too late, and then Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, I guess they figured, oh well, now that he's dead, he ain't nobody gonna say shit. His mistress was silenced. Nobody was gonna say shit. Now something is about to get exposed because they want to shift the blame on the Democrats and Bill Clinton. And as you know now, why the Clintons' name was name dropped. Um, Epstein said why the Clintons were involved with him. It was a business deal anyway. And I'm pretty sure the Bidens were in on it too with the business deal only. But now you understand what's going on. I'm not sure why Steve Bannon is releasing this again because he had it. I'm pretty sure he exposed it to somebody, but then now he's releasing it national, I guess, or I don't know, low key. So I don't know if it's just again to give a cover to see. This is why we don't have to release all the information in Epstein files. He was a businessman, not necessarily a trafficker. It's like whatever. Trump got his hands in his business because there's a lot of pictures of him together. In fact, Trump had his plane. He had Jeffrey Epstein's plane, and it could be why he bought, or no, he was gifted the Saudi Arabian's plane to ditch Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Because he probably knew this was coming down the pipeline. He probably even said, hey, I like your planes. Can I have one? Low key. He said, oh, yeah. When we do this business, I can give you one. Yeah. Because you're not supposed to, as a president, receive donations, gifts, or funding. But he's been doing it since January 1st. He got donations from some of the magnificent 7 tech companies, and he's getting gifts from people around the world. You're not supposed to do that. So there you have it. That's my reaction to this Jeffrey Epstein, Steve Bannon leaked interview, which it's just a cop out cover. They're only gaslighting what half of his life was, but as you can clearly see in Wikipedia, he was into other stuff. So take it how you want to. There's a lot to learn from this. You do get to learn what the Illuminati was, what Bill Clinton was doing, and now you know he was somewhat part of the reason why the housing market collapsed. But if you look back, you'll find out that Trump is the reason why the housing market has increased. All you gotta do is go back to 2018 and 2019 when he put tariffs on the housing material imports and exports. I mean, y'all should kind of like figure that out on your own. When you understand, the math is a clusterfuck because Isaac Newton made it worse. So hope everybody learned everything from this, learned something new. I may do another reaction video on something that hasn't been talked about yet. Hopefully, I'm the first to do this. I don't like doing reaction videos. That's already been done because that's the issue. YouTube is flooded with the same content, and I hate doing the same content that somebody else is doing. So hopefully you enjoyed this reaction video, and stay tuned to another one if I actually do one. All right, y'all have a good night.